And we're recording. Hi friends, the lighting's not very good. I've shut the sunlight out, so it's gone a bit too radical. What can we do to fix that? I could let the sunlight back in, but then I'll be squinting. It doesn't matter. I'm going to read you something anyway, so mostly it'll be the article. This was sent to me by a good friend in London that I've met several times. And given the unravelling that's going on of PSYOPs online, cyber warfare, modern day psychological warfare, this is fascinating. So what it demonstrates is how a mainstream media organisation, through a foundation, aka charity, funded a supposed independent media company to the tune of 2 million. And it begs the question, which other mainstream media or government foundations are funding what we thought were independent media channels? So I'll read this for you, and I hope it jumps out at you as much as it did me, because it's proof. It's just one example, but by golly, it's proof. Here we go. Oh, where is it now? Here it is. Right. Leaked documents reveal how Reuters, which is one of the world's most renowned news agencies, Reuters, quote, charity secretly serves as a tool for British influence across the world. It's amazing. I'm just going to enlarge a bit because of my eyesight. There we go. All right. By Kit Clarenberg, an investigative journalist exploring the role of intelligence services in shaping politics and perceptions. And I think this is published by RT, I don't know, I'll have a look. The Reuters Foundation is a renowned charity, big up Nikki and T for your research on charities, is a renowned charity attached to the famed news conglomerate. But recently leaked files show how it is assisting the UK government to serve London's interests. Don't forget, London is a city in itself, like the Vatican, like Washington, DC. And it's the financial capital of the globalists. So, to serve London's interests in all corners of the globe. This article has been clarified to correctly state Thomson Reuters Foundation's relation to Reuters Newswire services. So they're very good at changing names and adapting names and trying to make one degree of distance. Thomson Reuters Foundation is the charitable arm of the Thomson Reuters news conglomerate, but says it operates entirely independently from Reuters News. And is a separate legal entity from both Thomson Reuters and Reuters. Check Companies House to see how this works. Among a tranche of secret UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Offices, FCDO, files recently leaked by hacktivist collective Anonymous are papers indicating that Thomson Reuters Foundation, TRF, the, quote, charitable arm of the Thomson Reuters news conglomerate, has engaged in information warfare initiatives on behalf of Whitehall. If you needed proof, guys, this is proof. These endeavours form part of a wider effort to demonise, destabilise and isolate Russia at home and abroad. That might not be the only agenda, but this is, I think this is written or published on Russia Today. At Whitehall's direction, TRF has covertly cultivated Russian journalists, established influence networks within and outside Russia, and promoted pro-Whitehall, which is London, anti-Moscow propaganda in Russian-speaking regions. These activities have been comprehensively exposed by journalist Max Blumenthal. TRF tenders for the projects submitted to the FCDO were signed by its CEO. I'll put the link to this in the bottom if people want to study it closer. Monique Villa, former managing editor of Reuters Media. See, if you want to know someone, check where they worked before. Like hopping from Facebook to something else, to Google, to just check their LinkedIn. Okay. And now advisor to Thomson Reuters CEO, suggesting the company itself is directly involved in the cloak and dagger operations of its, quote, non-profit offshoot at the highest levels. As Nikki and T say, charities are for the most part a complete scam and a money laundering exercise. Moreover, though, the Foundation's submissions also reveal the insidious role it has played in furthering London's financial, geopolitical and ideological objectives elsewhere in the world. For instance, one file, I'm going to pull this monitor closer, details how TRF, has, quote, established new services in countries of interest to the FCDO. A cited example of this activity is the creation of Aswat Masriya, an, quote, independent media outlet by TRF in the wake of the 2011 Egyptian revolution. The operation was secretly funded. Listen to this. So when you see these big alternative media, supposedly independent media, exploding on the internet and alleging they're just viewer supported, listen to this. The operation was secretly funded by the FCDO to the tune of 2 million and run out of the Newswire's Cairo offices, which, quote, provided payroll, human resources and security support. Aswat Masriya became Egypt's leading independent local media organisation. See, they call it independent. It's a joke. It's a joke. You can't think the mainstream media would let themselves die on their feet and just watch the internet explode with so-called independent media. No, of course they're going to try and take over. Right, yeah. Aswat Masriya. Its content was offered for free syndication across the region. Quote, the document boasts, in 2018, it became one of the top 500 most visited websites in Egypt. Strikingly, the individual responsible for setting up the platform was Will Church, TRF's, quote, head of journalism projects. A leaked resume reveals he played a prominent role in the organisation's various FCDO-funded covert operations in Russia. So intelligence services are all over so-called independent media. This is proof. Phew. A still extant TRF profile of the Aswat Masriya endeavour claims 300 Egyptians were trained via the project. With this army of journalists generating in excess of 300 stories every week, which were duly picked up by over 50 media outlets worldwide weekly. The UK's rationale for kickstarting the venture at a time of such upheaval couldn't be clearer. The ousting of long-term Egyptian leader Hosni Mubarak in 2011 and the country's difficult transition to democracy represented both significant opportunities and challenges for Whitehall. The revolution and subsequent election of Muslim Brotherhood candidate Mohammed Morsi had the potential to threaten London's significant economic interests in Cairo and the region more widely. Establishing a, quote, neutral news platform, issuing content for both domestic and international consumption, would therefore allow the FCDO to maintain a degree of narrative control as events unfolded in the country. See, what better thing to do? You set up an independent media that pretends to be reporting on the upheaval and the political situation, but you funded them with 2 million in order to be the puppeteers. Stunning. Aswat Masria's website is no longer functional, but its Facebook page is highly illuminating. For instance, it uncritically reported President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's, quote, landslide election victory in 2014. In that vote, the former army chief who led the coup, which ousted Morsi a year prior, received an unbelievable 98 or 96.91%, a staggering total, at least partially explicable by him running virtually unchallenged after most other candidates were arrested or dropped out of the race. Unsurprisingly, foreign observers alleged the process fell far short of democratic standards. A year prior, Egyptian security forces under Sisi's command had brutally crushed a protest in Rabat al-Adawiya Square, Rabat al-Adwa Square in Cairo, slaughtering at least 817 people. Human Rights Watch dubbed it perhaps the largest mass killing of protesters on a single day in modern history. Quote, using armoured personnel carriers, bulldozers, ground forces and snipers, police and army personnel attacked the makeshift protest camp and gunned down protesters. The organisation recorded, yet little reference to the bloodshed was made by Aswat Masria. Conversely, the outlet repeatedly shared an article reporting on the results of an official investigation into the massacre, which blamed the death toll on protesters themselves, claiming they, quote, initiated attacks on security forces. Amnesty International's allegation that the probe was a whitewash, specifically set up to shield security forces from any criticism, was unmentioned. And I have a very dear Egyptian friend on my nuked Facebook page who gave me updates on what that horrible situation that was going on in Egypt. Similarly, President Sisi telling US Congress in November 2016 that freedoms and human rights in Egypt shouldn't be perceived from a, quote, Western perspective due to, quote, differences in challenges and local and regional circumstances, was promoted without accompanying comment or analysis. By Whitehall's own reckoning, Sisi's rule has been typified by ever-escalating torture, police brutality, rape of prisoners, forced disappearances, deaths in detention, and other horrors. Of the country's approximate 100,000 strong prison population, 60,000 are political prisoners. Wow. Despite awareness of this dire state of affairs, and the FCDO categorising Cairo as a, quote, human rights priority country, official condemnations from London are non-existent. In fact, UK Ambassador to Cairo, John Casson, has hailed Sisi for, quote, building a more stable, prosperous and democratic country, even praising his government's, quote, tough security measures. The seeming reason for such apparent willful ignorance was provided by the diplomat himself in 2016, quote, we are proud to be Egypt's biggest investor and of our trade worth over 1.6 billion a year. But we are hungry for more, he said, the ambassador of the UK to Egypt or Cairo. The lust for money is the root of all evil. Likewise, not a trace of this worsening human rights environment could be detected from Aswat Masria's output. The platform finally closed in March 2017. An accompanying press release noted that TRF was unable to, quote, find a sustainable source of financing for the platform. No, they'd fulfilled their mission. They'd had 2 million and fulfilled their mission whilst pretending to be an independent news outlet. It is unknown why the FCDO decided to stop supporting the outlet, especially given that its influence inside and outside Egypt was likely significant. The same PR states it produced, quote, over 80,000 text and multimedia stories, which were, quote, free for republication in English and Arabic. Perhaps it had fulfilled its founding purpose of helping ensure a suitably congenial government was safely installed in Cairo. Reuters journalists have been weaponized by Whitehall for malign purposes in the past. In 1948, the FCDO created the Information Research Department, IRD, a clandestine anti-Soviet intelligence organization that had a seismic impact on media reporting over the course of its existence. This was the excuse for a lot of the paperclip projects that my mum and my sisters and myself and thousands were subjected to. It was, oh, we have to beat the Russians, the Reds under the bed, the Russians, you know? Russia. Good God. By the time it was disbanded in 1977, it was one of the FCDO's largest departments. In 1949, IRD had a staff of just 62, based in London. By the mid-1980s, it employed 390, including 48 overseas, boasted a vast budget and coordinated, listen, weekly with MI5, MI6 and BBC World Service. There you've got it, guys. There you have it. Quote, IRD spread ceaseless propaganda output, a mixture of outright lies and distorted facts among top-ranking journalists who worked for major agencies, papers and magazines, as well as every other available channel. Journalists Paul Lashmar and James Oliver have noted. It worked abroad to discredit communist parties in Western Europe, which might gain a share of power by entirely democratic means, and at home to discredit the British left. Now, I'm not a communist nor a left-winger. I've been there in my student days. Not communist, but like, left-wing politics, and I'm not anything really, but so I'm not using this article to advocate, promoting Russia or promoting communism or promoting the British left. I'm just saying that look at the nefariousness of Reuters via an associated foundation putting up 2 million to create a pretend independent media platform. That's the point that jumped out at me. During its lifespan, IRD played a pivotal role in removing Indonesian leader Sukarno from power, leading to the deaths of at least 500,000 people. It supported UK entry into the European Economic Community, the forerunner of the EU, and provided fundamental support to the British Army's activities in Northern Ireland during the initial phases of the Troubles. Furthermore, in January 2020, it was revealed that in the late 1960s, the FCDO, via IRD, funded the creation of Reuters Middle East services to provide text in English and Arabic about local and world events for reuse by journalists internationally in the precise manner of Aswat Masriya. So see this manipulation of so-called independent media? This bankrolling complemented existing secret subsidies to Reuters Latin American news desks by the FCDO via a front company. Quote, there is reason to believe Reuters are receptive to the idea they would have to give something, receptive to the idea they would have to give something in return. What the UK government might secure in effect is the chance to influence, in some measure, the whole Reuters output. Journalists for sale. A declassified FCDO file stated, quote, there is an opportunity here to evolve a relationship with Reuters. UK interests should be well served by the new arrangements. And I bet there was a funky handshake. It was a disclosure which sparked outcry. A spokesman for Reuters told the BBC, quote, the arrangement was, quote, not in keeping with our trust principles and we would not do this today. Oh, lessons have been learned? Quote, Reuters receives no government funding, supplying independent, unbiased news in every part of the world, it added. Oh, so you just took 2 million in the past, or sent 2 million in the past via... See, Reuters can say we're not Thomson Reuters, and Thomson Reuters can say we're not Thomson Reuters Foundation. This is how they do it. This is how they do it, people. So that they can technically say, oh, Reuters had nothing got to do with that. That would have been Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters could say, oh no, that would have been the foundation. It's just such, it's so tragic, really. Such reassurances ring rather hollow following the leak of these sensitive FCDO files, and Egypt is likely to be just one country in which TRF has run a political influence and or regime change operation at Whitehall's clandestine behest. Wow. Did they run the 17th letter of the alphabet operation? Are they still? Wow. The same document which sets out the Aswat Masriya connivance refers to, quote, similar platforms created by TRF, the source in Zimbabwe, and Myanmar, now in Burma, being launched to provide free news to the respective country's citizens and English speakers alike. It's surely significant that the two countries, like Egypt, once counted among London's imperial holdings. Unsurprisingly, coverage of the recent military coup in Naypyidaw currently features prominently on the latter's website, although oddly, no mention to TRF can be found anywhere. The Thomson Reuters Foundation has been approached for comment, and we'll wait to see if they comment. Wow. So I just felt like sharing that from the point of view that big media, Mockingbird media, would fund through a couple of degrees distant something to look like independent media for their own purposes. Think of that what you will. God bless people. Have a great weekend.